From the small oval window of the plane, Nikie watched the airport shrink into the distance until it was nothing more than a grey smudge against the earth. The seatbelt sign blinked off above her head. The engines settled into a steady hum. She finally let herself breathe. For the first time in 26 years, her life belonged to no one but her. She closed her eyes and let her mind drift backward, the way it always did when she finally had a moment of stillness. Nikie was the middle child, not the pretty one. That title belonged to her older sister, the one people stopped to compliment at church, at the grocery store, at family gatherings where Nikie stood a few inches to the side, unnoticed. And she wasn't the miracle either. That was her younger brother, born late in her mother's life, back when everyone had assumed there would be no more children. He arrived like a gift no one had asked for, but everyone celebrated. Her mother doted on him constantly, his plate always full first, his mistakes always forgiven first, his name always the one called out with pride. Nikie learned early to take up as little space as possible. She wasn't ignored out of cruelty, she was simply overlooked. And somewhere in that overlooked space, she began to plan. By the time she turned 18, Nikie had already made up her mind about one thing. She would not stay in that house a single day longer than she had to. She had been dating Roger for 3 years by then, steady, reliable Roger, who noticed her in a way her own family never had. So when he got down on one knee and asked her to marry him, Nikie said yes without hesitation. It wasn't just love, it was an exit. At first, marriage felt like relief, a house of her own, a husband who paid attention to her, but it didn't take long for Nikie to realise she'd traded one set of walls for another. Roger had rules, she wasn't allowed to work. In his mind, her job was the house, cooking, cleaning, waiting for him to come home and tell her how the day had gone. Nikie tried. She really did try to make it work, smoothing down the quiet frustration that crept in more and more each week. But somewhere underneath the tidy kitchen and the folded laundry, a familiar feeling returned. She was stuck again, just in a different cage. Bored, and with far too many empty hours in her day, Nikie bought a computer. She told Roger it was for organising recipes, for browsing, for nothing important. What she found instead was an online job, something she could do entirely from home, something no one would ever have to know about. She was good at it, better than good. The pay came in steadily, quietly, and she never said a word to Roger. Every single check she saved, not a single penny wasted on something frivolous. While Roger believed his wife had no income and no ambition, Nikie was building something of her own, a secret bank account that grew healthier by the month, then by the year. 2 years into her quiet plan, Roger came home and told her he'd found someone else. Nikie didn't cry. She didn't beg him to stay, didn't ask what she'd done wrong, didn't fight for a marriage that had already stopped being a marriage long before he said the words out loud. She simply nodded and signed the divorce papers when they came. The day the divorce was finalised, they stood together one last time, on the courthouse steps, sunlight cutting sharp shadows across the concrete. Roger looked at her, and for a moment, something like guilt flickered across his face. "I'm sorry," he said. "I hope you find a job soon." Nikie looked at him, really looked at him, and felt nothing but calm. "I'm not sorry," she said, "and I've had a job for 2 years. I actually have a lot of money." She watched his mouth fall open, watched the shock settle into his features, as every assumption he'd ever made about her quietly collapsed. She didn't wait for a response. She turned, walked to the parking lot, and pulled her suitcase from the trunk of the car they had once shared. Then she left the keys inside, shut the door, and called a taxi. She didn't look back, and now, here she was. 30,000 feet above the life she used to know, watching clouds drift beneath the wing, like something out of a dream she hadn't dared to believe in. She wasn't running away. She was finally running towards something, a life she had built quietly, patiently, penny by penny, while everyone around her assumed she had nothing to offer. Below her, the ocean began to appear, endless shades of turquoise and blue stretching out toward the horizon. Somewhere down there was an island, a home she had chosen for herself, and a version of her life that finally, truly, belonged to her. Nikie leaned her head against the window and smiled. She wasn't the overlooked middle child anymore. She wasn't the woman who wasn't allowed to work, or the wife who wasn't enough. She was simply free. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for future videos.